initially I was oblivious. I just thought everybody got along with everybody. And then I started playing sports, and then we would go travel to different areas. In those days, the El Segundo, California area was more white, and I actually made friends. And we ate at their house and they ate at ours. But when we went to their community to eat at their house, because his parents always wanted, to meet his friends, and my grandma and grandpa were the same way too. But it's interesting because when we went into that community and park, we had a station wagon, and we all piled out of it. Mm-hmm. So you got mom, dad, 7 kids coming up out of that station wagon, and I started seeing looks, and they weren't looks like, "Oh hi, we're happy you're here." It was like, "Who the heck are these folks getting out of here in this neighborhood?"
Right.
And then my friend's dad came out, and he waved us in, and then mom greeted us with hugs and welcomed us into their home.
In the earlier part of TV, they didn't even show us on TV getting arrested. They would just talk about us, because remember, the cameras weren't as every place as they are now. So then my mom always taught me to just be the best that I could be. Never was because I was black, just be the best you can be. Get good grades, get good attendance and stuff like that, because it's going to be important to you in the future, is what she would tell me. Not so much because I was black. I didn't start getting that message maybe junior high school was when I really started understanding that it was going to be a little bit more challenging for me as a black man than as a regular man, a white man, a member of the dominant culture. Because the teacher started telling you had to do 110%, 120%. They would pull me to the side and tell me that they see something in me, and that they needed me to know that there's something there, and to work hard in bringing it out, and work hard in preserving it, not fall by the wayside. Because I was nerdish, nerd adjacent, but I always wanted to be cool. Played a little bit of basketball, but not really good enough to be, the superstar. Football and baseball, no. So I always wanted to be with the cool guys, but I was always smarter than everybody. So I'd do their homework and they'd hang out with me, kind of thing. And so my teacher would sort of see that and sort of make sure that I understood that I was the one that was bringing value to the relationship, not just them because of their sports acumen or them getting me into these social circles. And they taught me the value education. Get A's, get B's. More importantly, be able to remember and recall and use and apply what you learned. Then, I became so entrenched in the African American, the black movement, Gil Scott Heron, the Last Poets, Black Student Union, and I was in all that stuff. Because I wanted to make sure that I'm not saying that I missed the civil rights movement, but I was really too young for it. But I wanted to carry it on. And I tried to make sure that since, when I look in the mirror every day, there's no question that I'm not looking back at a black man. So I didn't try to hide it at all. I just made sure that everyone knew that I was that dude. And so I was wearing kente cloth, and I had the big natural and dashiki, the natural comb and everything. And I love my race. I love my mother. I love black women. So it was a natural for me to gravitate toward that. And having done so, you always hear that it's going to be tougher for you. I didn't start feeling that way until I started seeing actual examples until like high school, junior college, and college.
Right. I realized my life would be harder because I was black. Maybe, I'd say, this might not even be the first time, but just the most impactful time was around the time I started applying for jobs. And right away, like certain people in my family would say things like, "Oh, this is back when braids was hot, froze was hot," like main thing they touched on is like, "Hey, you might want to get your hair cut before you go into that interview." And it was like that didn't sit well with me at all.
Right.
And then ultimately I just got tired of having long hair.
Right.
Hence me with a haircut right now.
Right.
But it's still like that. That just let me know like man, wait a second. Like someone not a fella. That's not something they even got to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's a good question. I guess I would say in high school, once I got older to a point where I can understand certain things, I can understand racism really, really big time. Being from Philadelphia, I was telling people when I first came here, I've never seen really interracial marriages growing up until I got out of Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? So, the white people had their one side, the black people had their one side. So really, really growing up as high school, basically, I really realized that it's gonna be a little harder, because of being a black man and how the police try to treat you, how certain races treat you, how people look at you just because you're a black person or whatever. But it's crazy.
I don't know, like if I really had like a personal experience with like the separation in races or my opportunities, because I never looked at it like, oh, I'm black, I'm gonna have like a lesser opportunity. I was told historically that, but I never went into a situation like, oh, I didn't get it because I'm black.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, I'm just gonna try a little bit harder, or I'm gonna use certain keywords or whatever I need to do to attain my goal. And I mean, every job I've ever had, I've always respected them in the highest degree. They respected me in the highest degree, and I kind of commanded that level of respect, and I earned that respect.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see it more so, I guess, on a more widespread kind of basis.
Mm-hmm.
But applying it to my life, I
Right.
haven't really experienced that portion of it. Even working at the city of LA, I could see the disparaging numbers of blacks versus Latinos, whites, Asians, whatever have you. But times are definitely changing, even from when I started till now, and it's just knowing that like we are getting better as a nation.
A lot of the ways that I saw it was that I was the first black at this, or the first black doing that, or the first black doing that, or if I wasn't the first, I knew the first.
Yeah.
And him or her or I were friends. And even in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was still in situations within large corporations where I was still the first or like the second. Not so much that I would wear that as a badge of honor. It was just that because you were the first, people made notice of that.
Yeah.
A lot of black folks too, but some whites would mention it too. And because I was pretty good at speaking, I would always get the, wow, you're so articulate. Oh, wow, you're so different. But I guess because I was not off-putting, I could speak with them and talk with them and get my points across and listen and comprehend and get back to them. They began to, I won't say accept me, but I was hanging with them.
Yeah.
In high school, I went to Gardena High School in the 70s, and Gardena High School was almost perfectly integrated. Blacks, whites, Japanese, and Hispanic. If there was any minority at all at Gardena at the time that I went there, it was the Hispanics, because it was literally like one third. And so I got a huge understanding of dealing with people who weren't black at that time, and I had the opportunity to learn about their culture, listening to rock and roll and country, and then having them listen to R&B as well. And that really helped me when I got into corporate America, because you start seeing less and less black folks and more of everyone else.
Yeah.
And since I come from an environment where I'd seen it already, I was used to it. And then when I transferred to San Luis Obispo, man, San Luis Obispo was like the time, like going to the Twilight Zone. You'd see maybe, I know I'm exaggerating, but maybe there were like 200, 300 black out of the entire campus. And all of them would be at the student union. But then when school started, some of them who were, taking architectural classes or some of the more harder courses, you stopped not seeing them until after the quarter was over.
Yeah.
But we really hung together well there. That's, we founded the fraternity chapter up there out of that need for black study halls and black camaraderie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if it's a realization as much as it was like a solidifying of the fact. The biggest moment in my life that sticks out. There's a bunch, honestly, but the biggest one, or the earliest I can think of, is that when I was young, my father was pulled over by the cops, and regardless of whatever he was doing, or regardless of I'm young, so I don't remember exactly all the details, but they impounded the car. We were going to church, and it was like a church concert event type thing, that type of thing, and they impounded the car, and I had to wait in the lobby of the police station until my mother came, and they were able to bail them out and get the car and everything. My father's a physician, and his whole thing growing up was like, I want to have a nice car. He grew up dirt poor, one pair of pants, one pair of shoes, that type, you've heard the story, and it's like, that was his experience. And so we were driving through the suburbs, and there was just that moment of like, everything turned from one direction to the other. It literally turned from A to Z. And being stuck in a police station as a kid, and when you're young, you don't think anything of it, but like looking back on that and realizing it's like, this is probably going to be what it's going to be forever, or not forever, but at least for a good duration of my life.
Right.
And that moment of like, oh, okay, this is what it means.
For me, it had to be in middle school. It was about 7th, 8th grade. Where I grew up, on our block, it was a lot of Hispanic families and black families, so we always played together, did everything. So we went to the store. It was a Korean-owned store, and there's more Hispanics than blacks in that little friends group. When they started following me around the store more than looking at everybody else, that's when I realized, okay, like, why are you following me? We all came in together, but you're singling me out, you following me around. I'll never forget that. And then after I started, I guess, like being on edge and looking for someone to be looking at me or see what I'm doing. So that kind of made, we have it harder because it's always a target on their back. And no matter who or what you're doing or who you're with, they see you first as, oh, look at that black kid, look at that black guy, let's follow, see what they're doing.
I would say for me, growing up with you and my mom raising me, you guys tried to show me the best of both worlds.
Yes.
Any negativity towards me my whole life of being African American, I've always tried to, shut it off. I couldn't say there's an exact point to where I realized when it'd be more difficult growing up to be an African American male, but I know it's out there, and I just try to stay away from that. Those people, anything that pertains negatively in that aspect. I know for you, going to Missouri, you might have experienced some different things. I know traveling to different areas, people are different.
Yeah, Midwest and South a little bit different too. But no, even out here for me, actually, it didn't even take Missouri for me to notice. Out here, I remember like when I first started driving, when I was going to work, doing security, leaving on the freeways at 3 a.m.
Right.
Getting pulled over because I fit the description of, like, that's happened quite a few times. And so that, I've seen it, of course, prior to, but that's when I really started noticing, like, wow. So I'm always just gonna, because that's happened more than once, more than twice. I'm just like, I was hoping it's not a repeating cycle that's gonna keep happening, me fitting descriptions or, I got an all black tinted vehicle at 3 a.m.
Kind of similar to what you said. I don't know if it's necessarily a realization as much as this feeling, this identity was kind of thrust upon me. It's even probably as early as 4 years old, 5 years old, where you're in elementary school and I lived in a pretty mixed community, but you know, obviously, I was interacting with kids that were not my race and everything, and they would ask, "What are you?" Or even some kids would be like, "You're black."
Yeah.
Just pointing like, "You're black." I was just like, "Oh, okay. I guess that's me then."
Yeah. Right.
And I don't know if it's necessarily good or necessarily bad, or just it is what it is. You know, just the constant reminders from, especially my mother, but family figures of how to conduct myself in the world.
Yeah. How do you
just
navigate?
Right. You know, yes sir, no sir. If a police officer asks you a question, no back talking, no anything like that. And then you know, just kind of those elements aggressively escalating as I got older to the point where I remember even in my small town, I don't even know what the situation was, but you know, getting stopped by 2 police officers who already had their guns pulled out on me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you know, just getting put on the ground, pat down, you know, because I fit a description.
Yeah.
You know, right. And you know, for me, it was just wild because I think that was the first moment where you kind of get this feeling that someone innately views you as a threat, even though you haven't done anything.
You've done absolutely nothing.
Right. And
my first experience in realizing that, I wouldn't say I was in elementary school. And I went over to a friend of mine's house who happened to be white. And I remember being in that neighborhood, there were people who were questioning me being there, to where my mom had to come and start checking some people on some things. But, you know, it was one of those things where you kind of indicated to me where I was like, oh, I didn't know my skin color was an issue for me to go hang out with my friend.
Right.
You know what I mean? And when you're getting exposed to that at, you know, a young age, and, you know, being in elementary, it was kind of like an eye-opener from there, you know, where, you know, the world wasn't seen as colorful, you know what I'm saying, as it was, you know, as a child. So.